Hi guys, Thogrey here for a new video, and this video will be a tier list video for 3v3 range specs for season 2 of Shadowlands, the final tier list for this season. The season has been quite wild and we are soon to be over. I think it will come out in February, like I said in the previous videos, and we try to pump out those tier list videos so that it's getting out of the way, and then we can do other videos like guides, PvP tips and tricks, PvP montage videos. Maybe I'm trying to work on that, trying to learn some new techniques montage wise. But everything is alright, and thank you for the support, thank you for the likes, thank you for the subscriptions, and thank you for watching these videos. Let's jump right in. We are going to start to explain again the tier list. God tier, S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier. God tier means it is the best of the S tiers. It can be one or two class max. S tier is meta, which means that pretty much it is good in any comp versus any comps. Like, they are really well placed into the meta. A tier means it's a great class, but it has some disadvantages, or it has some bad comps, or it has some bad enemies that they are going to face. B tier means it is average, it is harder to pull off, and C tier, it means that it is quite underappreciated, or at least under average level in this meta. Doesn't mean that you cannot climb, doesn't mean it is bad, it just means that it's worst in comparison with the other classes. So everything is ranked, and we are going to start with Affliction Warlock. In my previous tier list for 2v2 in ranged, I've put Warlock into B tier, but in 3v3 it's quite different. It has some good comps, it has some peels, and often than not you're going to play with a caster like Shadow Play or a caster Cleave, so you are actually not the only one that is going to get all the interrupts or silences or stuns or fears to try to interrupt your gameplay, and you are not going to revolve all the gameplay into one death bolt. Often than not, you can also play with the unstable affliction PvP talent, which makes it possible to dot everyone, and you can go extra greedy for the death bolt and then the demon armor. But it depends. I saw a lot of affliction warlocks not play with the death bolt legendary and play with the death bolt PvP talent and with another legendary, for example. I still think death bolt is now good for the cheese, but next patch it will change. It will be a little bit. I think it will be a little bit stronger because it's a dot undispellable, and people will just sleep on it. So Affliction will go to A tier this time. Why? Because it has some good matchups, it has some bad matchups. Often enough, it is comp defining. If you're playing with a Warlock, your Elemental will appreciate you, your Shadow Priest will appreciate you. Even Frost Mage, actually, even though I think Frost Mages prefer to play with Destruction, you can make it work. You can make it also work with a melee like an unholy DK, for example. I saw some comps that are actually quite insane, like dot pressure, spread pressure. But Affliction Warlocks are quite fine in 3v3, but they are not S tier. They are a good class, a good spec in 3v3. They just get countered by a lot of classes, and I feel like in this meta, if you're getting countered by a lot of classes, you cannot be S tier. So, Arcane Mages. I play a lot of Arcane Mages, Mage these days. It's quite nice because people are sleeping on it, but I feel like if you are getting like targeted and people want you dead, often than not you will not cast anything. A lot of things are dispellable from you, so the surprise effect, if you're going for the the Kyrian Covenant, it does work. Sometimes you crit for 22k arcane blasts, which happened to me. You can then arcane barrage with your legendary, and it could like one shot people, but people just are not aware of the damage of arcane, so that's why it's actually a C tier class and spec. It's still a mage, so you can still make it work with a rogue, you can make it work with a paladin, for example, you can make it work with a warlock, with a shadow priest. but in comparison with the other specs, in comparison with Frost, in comparison with Fire, in comparison with the other specs on this tier list, I feel like if there is one C tier, it should be Arcane. Doesn't mean that it's bad, doesn't mean that you cannot climb with it. It just means it's a lot harder. I feel like the ladder representation just indicates that or Arcane is super boring, or Arcane is actually not performing. It can be a bit of both. I like Arcane. I try to make it work, but you need specific setups. You need a lot of help by your teammates, and then you can make it work. But one school of spell is way too much to deal with for Arcane. So I feel like they need to rework a little bit, but it should be alright. BM. So it is the first god tier for me. I think BM at this very moment it is the best 3v3 hunter spec. Just because of the consistency, the consistent damage, the pets are not dying as fast as in season 1. The comp Jungle Cleave is one of the best comps at this very moment with RMP, KFC, with also TSG. Like those comps are working very well. Even God comp is very good. LSD is also very good. There are a lot of good comps, but for me, BM makes it that it's actually easy to pull off. There is a lot of variables that you can have with hunters, and I feel like the BM spec is at the right place, even though for me it should be nerfed. Consistency or burst, not both, but something needs to be tuned down. And I feel like in season 1 you saw BM at C tier or B tier. Now in season 2 it's a god tier spec. Something changed that make that it's a god tier spec, and I think it's because of the meta changing all the time. I feel like next season it might be still the season of BM. So Boomkin, I'm gonna be honest, it's actually very great if you're paired with a DH and you're going Kyrian. I saw a few videos from Sympathies, a few Twitch streamers doing that. You can pair it with any Necrolord, actual Necrolord spec. So if you play it with a Windwalker, it's also very strong. If you play with an Elemental, it's also very strong. With a Frost Mage, Necrolord Frost Mage, I also saw it. It's actually also very strong. So there is a lot of things that you can do with Boomkin in 3s that you cannot do in 2s. I feel like I've maybe misplaced Balanced Druids in 2s. But I still think it's a A tier, but I think it should be in between A and B. But for now in 3s, it's high A tier. It's really a high A tier just because of the Kyrian Legendary and the pairing that you can have with a Necrolord. Having 16% extra versatility is too big to pass on, and it doesn't scale, so you are going to be very tanky, and it's actually very strong. If I'm correct, it doesn't scale because it does feel like it's not scaling. It feels like you are actually cutting through a tank and not doing any damage. So Boomkins are very good, especially paired with Demon Hunters. Like Demon Hunters, Necrolord are unstoppable with Boomkins, and I feel like you need to be killing a lot of people to try to cut those comps into 2 pieces or 3 pieces. So Demonology Warlocks. So I might be biased, but for me it's better than Affliction. Just because that Demonology Warlocks have the advantage to burst people down in a few globals. Still a lot of globals because you have a lot of setups, you need to cast a lot of spells, but you need to be paired with any casters. Like a Frost Mage wants to be paired with a Destruction or a Demonology just because of the sheer damage that you can have. You can also pair it with a Shadow Priest and it becomes Shadow Play. You can also be paired with a Marksmanship Hunter. I also saw that, then you can always one-shot people. And Elemental is also very good with Demonology. I play Demonology these days and really it is a good spec at a good place. Although I think they will probably most certainly nerf that spec just because that Demon Bolts are maybe too strong for their liking. But without Demon Bolts I feel like you are quite bad. So I hope they won't nerf it just to nerf it, and they will compensate some way somehow. But yeah, I mean, I like Demonology. It's a fun spec. I just don't like to get trained by meaties, but who likes that anyways? Destruction Warlocks. I think the whole Warlock spec class is a 8 class because for the reason I think Destruction is better than Affliction. For the reason that its pairing with Frost Mages are insane. If you put a Destruction Warlock with a Frost Mage, the game becomes infinitely more easy for the Frost Mage or for the Destruction Warlock. You try to position yourself between the healer and the DPS if you're not targeted, and if you're targeted, you try to drag the melee behind the pillar and try to kill and LOS the other healer. So there is a lot of options that you can have with Destruction. I still think the best comp is with Frost Mages. I play a lot more Demonology, but the second spec that I play the most is Destruction, and I liked the pairing with a Balanced Druid or Elemental just because they have more oomph into the spec at all times, while Frost Mages, if they go Necrolord, it's pretty much a 3-minute spec, and that without the Necrolord Covenant ability, it hits hard, but it's not like surprisingly hard like popping all CDs, for example. So it is an 8 spec. Elemental. I might change the tier list just to try to order, because I feel like having no B tier is a bit concerning. I feel like there should be a ranking between them. Elemental for me is an A tier spec. Maybe it's even an S tier spec. They have good healing, like great healing. They have great damage. They have actually surprisingly good damage and survivability because of the earth elemental, the good damage from the fire elemental. They have good off healing, they have good healing, they have good utility, grounding totem, counter strike totem. You can go for Sky Fury for even more burst. I feel like elemental is a good place. I feel like every class should be balanced around this A tier. Like elemental, if people are balanced into the elementals tier list, I would say the ranking, I think that the game would be even better. Although for me the game is playing smoothly. I like the pacing of the game at the moment. I like that people die. I don't like that people are surviving in dampening games. Even though I like playing Affliction, I still think the gameplay should not be around a 10-minute game or 8-minute game where nobody dies and people get all the time, or people are trying to actually kill time because of dampening games. I don't like that. So elemental, very good spec, A tier. Fire mage, S tier. S tier because it has insane burst. Okay, it's stoppable. If you're a warlock, you can pretty much stop his crit combust. I'm not going to tell my secrets yet. But fire mages are actually hard countered by warlocks, by hunters also because of the sacrifice for pets, a pet sacrifice. And I feel like the comp that are actually great with fire mage are with god comp, RMP. You can even play with a WMP with a warrior. You can even play with a windwalker. They have so many good comps that actually I think that it is a S tier. I would even put them maybe at God tier. Like I will watch the end of the tier list before I maybe display some specs. But Fire Mage is at a real good spot. I think it's quite boring to only play around Combust, and I think they need to change that and to have either a little nerf to the Combust and a buff to the consistent damage, or something. I think you should not be trying to all the time build around Combust, or actually only play around Combust. I feel like if fire mages could kill outside of Combust, that would be great for them, but also that people can react on Combust even if they have no CDs. Something needs to happen. So Frost Mages, for me it's also a S tier. I'm going to explain why. In twos it's different. In trees you have all the time in the world to actually cast, and if you're playing with a caster comp like a wizard cleave, I still think that you're in a huge advantage if you are going to get focused, because you're going to alleviate the pressure from destruction, from elemental, from a boomkin, from a demonology, for example, or from your shadow priest. There's multiple good things around frost mages, and I think that the pressure that you can give with all those frost balls, all those slows, all those polymorphs, all those instant great damage that you can have, I still think that's actually a good thing for frost mages. Frost mages is more consistent than fire mage. For me, I prefer to have a frost mage when I'm playing with a destruction, when I play on my destruction or my demonology, for example. But I can understand why a RMP likes to have a fire mage, because it's this instant. You can burst whenever you want. You don't really need to cast a lot to have your combust. So to actually use your combust, I would say. So for me, frost mages are S tier and definitely a good class spec to have in season 2, and in season 3 it would be even better, I think, with the double legendary, which means the necrolords become infinitely better because of the procs, so you can have the skeleton form more often into a match. So marksmanship hunter. Look, I'm going to add a new row. It's going to be S minus. It's going to be S minus, just because of the reason that I don't think it's S tier, but I don't think it's A tier either. So it will be S minus. I'm going to explain why. It is actually a very good spec. It is the second best spec for hunters in trees. It has Cupid. It has also very good in-your-face spec comps, like with a warrior, for example. You can even play with another caster, ranged spec. You can play with a paladin. You can play with so many comps that you can actually play with a hunter, because hunters are really versatile. The only issue I see is they are really easy to kill, and their CC is less reliable than, for example, BM, because they don't have a pet stun, for example. And I don't know, I feel like it's S minus. I feel like it's a good placement. It has great damage, great consistent damage, great actual annoyance that you have. You're also the ideal kill target for the enemy team, which alleviates the pressure from your teammates. And I don't know, yeah, I feel like S minus is a great tier for them. I would even put elemental maybe at S minus. I'm going to see if it's possible or not. Shadow priest S tier, better than frost mage though. And I would say fire mages are god tier in trees, at least in trees, because they have the possibility to actually burst multiple times and have a reliable kill potential when they are playing with a healer and another DPS. While in twos, you really need a rogue, like a rogue for rogue mage, to actually have multiple kill opportunities. While if you're playing with a healer in twos, you don't have that much window of opportunity for killing people. So Shadow Priest, very good, has multiple great comps. I think in trees you can play with any class, like really any class. You can play with a windwalker, you can play with a warrior, you can play with a demon hunter, you can play with a DK, even though DK is not the really great comp that it once was. You can still pair it with an unholy DK, which rots the enemy team. You can play with a frost mage, you can play with a fire mage, you can even play with an arcane mage. I think shadow priests are really in demand, especially for the necrolord one, which has great consistent damage and great pets damage. Is actually annoying to deal with, and that's why it is the third best spec. Look, this is quite interchangeable. Some people will think that Shadow Priest is god tier, some people will think that Fire Mage is god tier, Frost Mage also god tier. It's also interchangeable, but for me the best classes are BM Hunters and Fire Mages. You have Shadow Priest and Frost Mages, and I'm going to keep it like that. There is no real B tier or average class spec in trees. I still think that obviously melees are better at this moment than ranged specs, even though I think ranged specs can do great damage and do great control and actually do finish games a bit slower. But the difference between an affliction and an arcane mage is still big. That's why B tier should be empty, and then you have arcane mage at C tier. Let me know what you think about this tier list and how I actually tried to rank all these with each other. I tried to explain as much as possible what my reasoning is behind my tier list and what my reasoning is behind all those discrepancies. Yeah, I think it's a good tier list. I think I might change it like that, elemental to S minus, but that's preference. And yeah, thank you for watching the video. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this video, or on the forums, or on Reddit. And also, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel, helps me a ton. You will see a lot more content. I'm trying to prepare a lot of content for this January and for this year, and we have quite great goals to achieve. And thank you for watching this video, and have a great day. See you next. Bye.